All right. Hey, what's up, Facebook world? What's going on? We're here live with another amazing wrestler in our country. He's got Matt Savvy Academy up in New York, and he's doing big things over at the New York Athletic Center. He's training right now to go to the 2021 Olympics, so we look forward to seeing him there. And he wrestled at Loudoun County High School up in or down in Virginia, where he was a two-time regional champ, three-time state placer, and now he's just doing his thing at the New York Athletic Club. Hey, what's up, coach, wrestler, everything? What's going on, Logan Savvy, man? Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really excited, when I got the notification. I love the show, what you've been doing. It's had a lot of really cool guys on here.
Where he was a two-time regional champ, three-time state placer.
As far as like my training and stuff, obviously COVID threw a wrench and all that, but I'm still very encouraged going forward, and I'm ready to tackle any challenge that comes my way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, talk about that, because you're like right in the COVID heart of what it was. I mean, now it seems like it's us down here in Florida, but you were really hit hard up there by it. I mean, talk about living through that process and being in New York and having to fight through all that.
Yeah, so it was actually it's actually a good move to get out of New York prior to all this stuff happening. You saw, like, I'm sure you see on the news, like New York was kind of the first epicenter that was really getting a lot of publicity, and kind of people saw it coming, right? Because it's so densely populated and stuff like that. So relocating to Northern Virginia, staying with my family. I think a lot of people kind of had the same strategy that were up in that area. Right now, Ithaca is kind of like vacant. There's not a whole lot of people there. But yeah, no, it was definitely a good idea to get out while the going was good. So I've been posted up at home with my family, finding alternative ways to train. I've been doing a lot of like body awareness stuff, and a lot of like just balance. I've been back in the wrestling room recently, but during the months of like March, April, and May, definitely had to find some interesting ways to train.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of athletes are in your same boat. I mean, the New York Athletic Center there, where is that, in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, Upper East Manhattan. Right across. You could throw a stone and hit Central Park. From where the New York Athletic Club is.
I gotta imagine you're not the only athlete that had to make some adjustments. Have they opened back up yet there in New York, or are they still?
Currently, no. We're still.
Did I lose you? So we're here live with my man Logan Savvy at the New York Athletic Center, and he's just talking about kind of the COVID stuff that he's been going through, and letting us know about what the plans are and what they're doing. But excuse me, it looked like he froze a little bit on us. I'm sure he'll be back. Are you back? You back, Logan? All right, so I'm sure he'll be back here in just a moment, and we'll get him back on, and he'll continue to talk about what his goals are. He's training for the 2021 Olympic Games. He's been training at the New York Athletic Center, obviously going through the COVID and what they've been going through in New York City. He's had to make some adjustments, just like the rest of us, but doing the best he can. He's got Matt Savvy Wrestling, which we'll get into. He trains predominantly Greco, so we'll hear about that with him, and we'll welcome him back right now. Logan Savvy, what's up, man? He's back.
Hey.
And
yeah, sorry about that. I got disconnected.
No worries. We were still live, and I was just explaining to them that who we were with, and you were starting to discuss how you're training for 2021 New York Athletic Training Center, and just kind of going into what your process has been right now. But I think the question I asked prior to your internet cutting us off was what does it look like right now at the NYAC?
So our coaches are awesome. They've been really proactive about sending us different workouts. There's like the Suplex training system. So, we got over like, pretty close to 100 different workouts that they've been sending out to us, via email. There's been like live Zoom workouts. So that's kind of been like the model really for a lot of athletes right now. Just, trying to remain socially distant and be compliant with guidelines and things like that. But there are some places that have been fortunate enough to reopen. So like in Northern Virginia, there's a place called Top of the Podium. That's where I do the majority of my training. So like, we're not really going full on wrestling contact yet, but it's nice have access to like the throwing dummies and really just being on the mat again. Like my first practice back, I seriously got chills just like tying up my shoes. Like, it's been
I could imagine. I know my son, he's only 14, but I know he's hating life right now. Not hating life, but and he wants to be out there fighting. So
yeah, it's a big part of who we are. And, just knowing that, it's just too big of a risk to try it is eating at a lot of people. But like I said, day by day, we're getting closer and closer to being back to training and, being back in our arena because we're Warriors.
Yeah, man. Hey, your home state, first of all, of Virginia and West Virginia, those two states, man, they're starting to produce some rock stars, huh? I mean, it seems like it's like Pennsylvania North, Pennsylvania South a little bit when you get into those Virginias, man. You guys are putting some wrestlers on the map. That's good, man. And I know you're looking forward to the 2021 Olympics, and I know your main focus right now is Greco, right?
Yes. I've chosen we call it the men's wrestling because for whatever reason there's no women's Greco, so we call it the men's wrestling. But yeah, I definitely I chose Greco. I was at a little bit of a crossroads back in like 2018. I had kind of just gotten on board with the New York Athletic Club, and I was deciding, like what it was going to be. I still had a couple of years to decide before the Olympic year, but I was doing freestyle. I didn't do a whole lot of the international styles growing up. I just was really focused on folk style. So initially I was like, okay, I'll do freestyle because it's close to what I knew. But I don't know, just kind of my belief as a wrestler, wanting to be the best wrestler I could be. I thought it was important to train and learn a style that I wasn't really comfortable with. Getting outside your comfort zone, that whole thing. So when I went up to Cornell and training at their regional training center, and at first, when I was there, they're like, yeah, just you're here to get better at wrestling, so it's fine. You just do either style. And then one day I got sat down by Coach Ahad and Rob Cole, and they were like, you need to pick a style. And so, I'm in a unique situation because I have the best training partners in the world. There was like Yanni and Jordan Oliver is up there and stuff like that. So if I do freestyle, I'm wrestling with those guys every day. But, something told me like Greco is what you need to learn because, again, it was outside of my comfort zone. And obviously I was like bribed a little bit by Coach Ahad because he loves having more Greco guys in the room. So I committed to Greco pretty early on back then. And I'm definitely not upset with the choice. It's been a fun journey. I've gotten to travel overseas and compete and train with a lot of cool people that I never would have met. And I honestly feel like I've come a very long way as a wrestler, and I'm just getting started.
Yeah, man, good for you. And I've had a few Greco coaches on here. I had Coach Betterman, who's he's a Greco stud. He's got a school up in Colorado, and that's his thing. I had Coach Dennis Hall, which, as you know, Greco Olympian. I had Coach Nate Angle, who's just took the Oregon State assistant job, but he was a big Greco guy and spent a lot of time up there with Betterman in Colorado. So yeah, it's nice to see some of the Greco guys coming on and talking Greco. I know you're making Dennis Hall's day. He keeps saying, get more Greco guys on. I'm like, I don't know anybody. You got to send them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of going along with the Greco theme. Me and my main training partner while I'm in Virginia, Nick Africano, we are starting a nonprofit called Greco United, right? And the whole thing of like, we're planning on like sponsoring some youth athletes and maybe senior level athletes, but it's not going to be like a traditional club. We want to really push to like educate coaches and wrestlers in America on Greco. Because that's what we're lacking. A lot of coaches, at the high school level and even the college level will graze over, the whole upper body, right? Everybody gets in those scenarios and they're like very uncomfortable because, I guess we're just missing the education piece of it. So our plan right now is we're starting a campaign called Bridging the Gap, right? And so we surveyed 100 coaches and we asked them, if you could learn 3 things from a Greco guy, like what would it be? And the most common responses we got were arm drag, body lock, and hand fighting, right? So those 3 things obviously apply to all styles. So the education that we're going to be pushing is kind of centered around that, right? And bridging the gap between these different styles with moves that are already familiar. So there's a big push for Greco right now because, I think there's a lot of athletes that like me that would benefit from it, but maybe just haven't been exposed yet.
Yeah. And I don't know if you met those guys that I talked about already, but they were on my show and, I'm sure, they're big Greco guys, so I'm sure they'd love to reach out and help you with that. They're on, Betterment Train Hall, they're all on here. They're all on social media. So, but yeah, they're all big in that. And Coach Betterman right now just purchased, I think, like 36 acres in Colorado to really expand his school. So,
Wow.
He'll be doing some Greco there. Also other wrestling as well, but he is that's his love. But that was cool. So, man, are you going to intermingle that with your club? I know you have Matt Savvy Wrestling. Talk about Matt Savvy and your culture there, and what you're doing for the kids, but also kind of what you've been doing for them during this time to kind of keep them motivated. And like you have coaches taking care of you. How are you taking care of your kids?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So Matt Savvy was a pretty interesting venture. I started back in 2017. And at the time I was in Lynchburg, Virginia. I just finished up at Liberty University. And, I had one guy that I was training, kind of privately. And he had a lot of potential. He had a lot of potential, very talented wrestler, but not a whole lot of partners. So I kind of became like his main partner. And then, kind of the coach in me was like, we could do a lot of good here. Like, this is a good opportunity. So, I started to round up some other kids to bring in, and eventually it just became, the Matt Savvy Wrestling Club. So I'm taking these kids basically all over the East Coast doing different tournaments. And it really was kind of just centered around, trying to help one guy. But, that one kid had a pretty big influence in this area. So that's kind of like where we started from. And it grew from there. I took it and used it as a platform to kind of get myself on the senior level. So like if you're on YouTube or something, a lot of my early competition years, you'll see Matt Savvy Wrestling Club. And our mantra is kind of just it's a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So for me, coaching is kind of more about instilling good qualities into guys. Obviously wrestling is our medium or our platform that we use, but a lot of it is just about teaching life lessons and teaching kids how to make good decisions. That's kind of what being savvy is about, right? So having a good understanding.
What a cool ass name. Yeah, first of all, a cool last name, and then a cool ass name, and then a cool ass wrestling club name, Matt Savvy. That's awesome, man. You got to send me your logo so I can throw it up on the logo board back there.
Oh yeah, 100%. That would be awesome.
Yep, you got to put it up there, man. So you had mentioned that you've been at NYAC now 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Talk about what that's done to your wrestling. How much better have you gotten being around a club of that stature?
Oh, it's been life changing, honestly. The New York Athletic Club was always like one of the clubs I looked up to growing up. You know, a lot of my favorite athletes had gone through that club, and they really do a lot of work in the community as well. So I've always been inspired by NIAC. But for me, you know, becoming a part of the club meant that I was finally going to be around like these world class athletes and world class coaches, and give myself the best opportunity to become the best wrestler that I could be. And then, you know, have the level of influence to where once I was ready to give back, and once I was ready to you know, be involved in things that were outside of the wrestling world, you know, NIAC was definitely the organization that I wanted to be a part of. So like it's been life changing. I absolutely love the coaching staff, and you know, who wouldn't want to be in New York City, you know, getting to train with the best people in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to go for a run. Let me just walk across the street to the park and run through the most well-known park in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, they host a tournament every year, the Bill Farrell International Tournament, and that was actually my first opportunity to wrestle against international competition. So you know, like I said, they do a lot of really cool things, but you know, I had some good motivation to get on board with them.
Well, that's awesome, man. And man, good for you. And you're doing big things. You're giving back, um, and you're in Manhattan. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I know my aunt lives up there, right across the street from the park. She finally years ago she got a little apartment there, and you know, of course, an apartment in Manhattan is very different than an apartment I could find in Orlando. Yeah,
Yeah, probably worlds apart, right?
yeah, man. I obviously the cost of living in Manhattan is expensive, but it's got to be fun being in a city like that. I know I got to experience Boston a little bit. I got to experience Philly a little bit from I lived up there for a little bit, but I've been to New York City several times. I grew up visiting up there, but uh, I always thought it'd be pretty cool just to wake up in the mornings and that you smell just New York City. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just a cool place, man.
yeah.
Lovely.
So on the subject of you know, kind of finances and you know, cost of living and all that stuff, one of the really cool things that people don't know about the New York Athletic Club is we have an extension program called Work to Train, right? And so what they do is, you know, they take their elite athletes, you know, some of their high level athletes, and they work really hard to get them, you know, placed into career opportunities that will allow them to work and train, right? So I actually recently was placed into you know, a job with a Fortune 500 company. I don't know if you've heard of Quest Diagnostics, but
Yeah, they take my blood.
yeah, yep, they do lab testing and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so I'm part of their social media department, and you know, that's something that I would never even consider if I was just on my own applying for jobs. But you know, my mentor Mike Risley, you know, he was basically sending me job opportunities like every week, right? Every week. And then finally we came around to this one with Quest. He's like, listen, you know, it's a remote job. I think it's going to be perfect for you and your situation because, you know, I have a son and I'm trying to train full time. I got a lot of things on my plate, right? So he, you know, took his time and found a really good opportunity for me. But I'm not the only one. You know, there's the extension of the New York Athletic Club is the reason why this company exists, right? So I think a lot of like young viewers that might be watching, or other athletes that might be watching, like, you know, these are things to consider because we do kind of go through an insecurity as an athlete of like, am I gonna have a job or am I gonna be making enough money? Because obviously, like, wrestling's not paying the bills, right? So you know, there's plenty of opportunities that I think people don't really get to see behind the scenes. But yeah, that's kind of another reason why the New York Athletic Club is separated from the other ones in my mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. And maybe one day you're a coach there, you know?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, my aunt is a social worker in New York City, and she's been there, gosh, my whole life, my whole adult life. And she was part of ice hockey in Harlem, and she was part of some other really cool programs there that give back. So um, definitely a cool town and a cool place. And giving back is obviously what we should do, right?
Yeah, it's what keeps us going.
Yeah.
Wrestling is kind of one of those sports where, like, you know, well, up until recently, because I think this is a pretty big change that's been happening. I would say around the time I was in high school, a lot of people didn't really look past high school wrestling. Or, if you did wrestling in college, you weren't really looking past college wrestling. It was just like, you win your state title or you don't win your state title, and then that's it. You go join the workforce, you do whatever. But with the appearance of these regional training centers, it's really changed. It's changed the game. It's changed the demographic. More people have the opportunity to pursue wrestling at a higher level. And not everyone's going to make the Olympic team. Not everyone's going to make the world team. But I think the people that you meet and the experiences that happen along that journey are really what matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, and how cool would it be? Maybe you're working as an attorney in New York City, and at 5:30 you walk in the athletic club and you're teaching wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still involved, you're still helping, you're still doing your thing. It's pretty cool. Well, Matt, it's awesome what you're doing up there, and good for the New York Athletic Club. I know Beat the Streets is big there. It's where it started out, so I'm sure getting to see that type of wrestling was probably pretty cool for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to be in one of these Beat the Streets events. I love what they're doing. And wrestling is kind of one of those sports where like it provides a really big outlet and a lot of opportunities for kids that maybe, are at risk or don't have, the best things going on in their personal life. It offers escape from that,
Yeah,
so
and
I think that's huge.
I think a big thing too is if you're a kid that grew up in sports, um, most likely you didn't grow up with seeing a lot of the racial tension because you grew up as a kid, you grew up in a sport, we were all athletes and brothers, and we love each other. And I think that's one of the best things about wrestling or about any sports is uh, there is no color to wrestling. You come in, you're welcome as family, and I think that's a great thing. And I think our world needs to be better with that as well.
Yeah, you learn to accept everybody for who they are, right? And wrestling is one of those sports where like you really get to see what people are made of, right? Because your habits and what you do and how you carry yourself doesn't just exist inside the wrestling room, right? Everything that you do outside of the wrestling room impacts how you're going to compete in a match. It impacts how you're going to perform in practice. It impacts how you're going to treat your teammates. So it's a very, very unique sport in that sense, so where like there's so much personal growth and development that happens, that you grow up and if you're on a good team that's probably diverse, then you're not going to struggle with the same things as other people that are growing up outside. So yeah, it's a wonderful sport.
Yeah, I love that about it. All right, you ready for my 10 questions?
I'm ready.
Excuse me. All right. I think I know the answer now after talking to you for 20 minutes, but Greco or freestyle?
Definitely the men's wrestling, no
Yeah.
question.
All right, more prestigious, 32 or Fargo?
Ooh, prestigious. I mean, I would have to say Fargo. People break their necks to go to Fargo, and they'll keep going breaking their neck to get there, right?
Yep. Central Park or Rockefeller Center?
Central Park. Plenty of room for activities.
The Reno or the Body Bar?
Reno.
Soho or the Pier?
Oh, we're going with the pier on this one.
The Dave Schultz or the Bill Farrell?
Gotta go Bill Farrell.
Little Italy or Chinatown?
Chinatown.
Pan Am or Cadets?
Pan Am. You gotta get the experience.
Knicks or Nets?
Oh man. Next.
Dixie's or Tulsa?
Tulsa. That's a special one.
Nice. Well, man, and those are my 10 questions. I tried to mix it in a little bit, wrestling and some of where you're at and what you're doing in Manhattan. And man, keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep kicking life's ass. I tell people that all the time. Keep kicking life's ass and continue to do what you do. And by by young adults like you coming back and giving it back. That's how generations and generations continue to grow in this sport. And man, good for you. Good for you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love the opportunity to kind of share my thoughts, my mind, and hopefully I was able to inspire some people along the way. And yeah, I love what you're doing. I hope you keep this up.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to keep it going, and I love it, and keep doing what you're doing. And when you start your nonprofit for the Greco thing that you're gonna do, let's get you back on with your partners and stuff so we can shout it out to everybody and make sure that at least my small platform is hearing you.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
For sure, man. And I hope I get up there. I was going to come up this year to go to the Princeton camp with my kids, but we had this little pandemic go on, so I can't do that. But,
Yeah, it's kind of got in the way of things, huh?
yeah. So
Well,
hopefully,
yeah, if you're coming up to Nyack, wear a nice suit. They won't let you in.
yeah, I did that. A funny story. There's a private club here, and it's on like the top floor. It's called the Citrus Club, and I got invited once, like a year and a half ago. I got invited to be on a show, like a real estate show or whatever, and I show up in shorts, and they're like, "You can't be here in shorts." So they couldn't do the show out in the dining room with me. They had to sneak me back into like this little private room and
Yep.
table and stuff. I was like, what the hell do I know? I wear shorts and a t-shirt. I mean, I had to wear shirt and tie when I was in that world, but now I don't. So I don't.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I'll remember it, man. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Hey, any of your boys, anybody up there at New York Athletic Training Center or anybody around the country that you know that you'd like to see on here, man, just send them my link and welcome. When we get off, I'll DM you myself so we can stay in touch.
Word. Sounds like a plan. Awesome.
All right, you take it easy.
All right. Yeah. Take care.